She's a seasoned project manager and subject matter expert for complex technical projects, including subcontracts and supplier relations. Analytical and process-oriented program and contract manager and Mensa Society member, and her background includes the aerospace, defense, telecom, and power sectors. She's a proven leader dedicated to creating an environment where teamwork, organization, efficiency, and client satisfaction are core values. Coming to her education, she holds MS in Telecommunications Management and BS Electrical Engineering, and she's a certified project management professional, that is PMP. In this episode, let's talk to Angela Thurman on project management as a service and also understand some best practices about project management, few nuances about some complex projects that she has delivered. This is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a Better Future. Friends, I am your host Navin Samala, just a fellow professional on a mission to make the world a better place to live. Through the Guiding Voice, we drive conversations that matter and conversations that add value to your life and to your career. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Angela, I'm super happy to host you. Hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice.
Thank you so much, Naveen. I'm so happy to be here, and it's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Absolute pleasure is mine. And Angela, let's get into our conversation and request you to share the top 3 things that have attributed to your success so far.
Well, I would say the first thing is that I studied electrical engineering at a small private school, and I had the privilege to be in very small classes. So that allowed me direct contact with my professors in a one-to-one relationship. And they really gave me a good grounding in those core classes and to get a lot of direct attention. So that was a privilege early in my career. And then because I studied at a Christian university, I had the opportunity to go to Ecuador for a summer and work at a shortwave radio station in the Andes Mountains. And that I came away with a project to build a switching power supply for the mission. And that was my senior design project. And that directly led to my first job, which was for NASA, working in the power management and distribution branch for the space station. So that was, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was one thing leading directly to another, which led me into my career. And so that was a very, very great opportunity for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And while I was at NASA, I was taught project management by Dr. Harold Kersner, because he was teaching at the local university, Baldwin Wallace in Berea, Ohio, and NASA would bring Dr. Kersner in to teach project management to the engineers. So I had a foundation in project management directly from Dr. Kersner. So that has served me very, very well throughout my career. And that I would say that those were some top things.
Quite interesting. And how was your experience working for NASA? Because people aspire to work, at least visit NASA once, and you had an opportunity to work there. So how has been your experience?
It was fabulous. So this was in the early days of space stations. So so designing and testing the load converters and the power management systems for the space station. So late 80s, early 90s, pre-launch, working with some fantastic intellectual people and working with some people that were far advanced in their careers, great designers, great engineers, and just so I worked with two different subcontractors, TRW and Westinghouse, on two different topologies for the load converters. I got to work in the lab, testing these products, selecting the eventual design of the unit, and understanding testing methodologies, working both with digital design and testing, as well as the actual physical designs and testing as well. And I ultimately wrote a NASA tech brief for that would be presented at a conference, and just really enjoyed that time in my career. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think people feel fortunate to work for NASA, and you were one of the fortunate few. And,
yes, and so, that was at that time it was known as NASA Lewis. It's now called NASA Glenn, and it's in Cleveland, Ohio. And a lot of people don't realize that is one of the facilities that was an original NACA, so the National Advisory Committee on Aviation, and it was one of the older facilities where they had done aerospace research prior to the existence of NASA. Oh. So Lewis did a lot of testing on engine research, wing design. So we had two huge wind tunnels, and so just tons of interesting work aside from the space exploration.
Yep, very nice. Now, Angela, now let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Like you have started project management as a service offering. So,
yes,
what are some toughest lessons that you learned as an entrepreneur?
So, I own a project management consulting company headquartered here in Houston, and I have project managers on my team that are geographically dispersed across the country. And that way, we're able to offer services to our clients, and we work remotely, and we're not tied to any one particular geography. Project management as a service is a scalable subscription service that meets our clients' needs in that they can select the amount of support that they need. So they may not have a requirement or the funding for a full-time project manager. And this is particularly beneficial for the small companies that we often support. So a manager can say, I really don't need a full-time PM, I need a part-time PM. And so they can choose, maybe they need 20 hours a week or 15 hours a week of project management services, and then sign up for a subscription for 4 months or 6 months or 12 months. And we offer that to them. And they can also choose a PM that is PMP certified, or maybe another PM that isn't PMP certified, but has many years of PM experience, and they're highly qualified, but they're just not PMP certified. So we try to be very flexible to meet the specific needs of our clients.
Okay. So in this process, like, what are some challenges that you have encountered as an entrepreneur?
One of the things is helping people to understand why they need project management and why they need someone who is specifically trained in project management to help them with their projects, because what we frequently see is that the project management responsibilities are assigned to oftentimes engineers who are fantastic and very intelligent people, but they're not specifically trained in project management. And that's one of the things that causes a project to fail, because those team members are overworked and they're unprepared for the challenges that can cause a project to fail. And so we try to help our clients understand that while you may think that this person is capable, your project could fail because they're not trained and they're unprepared for the risks your project may face.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Now let's move ahead and talk about your project management experience.
Certainly.
Like what kind of projects and programs have you driven? I think you mentioned about NASA experience as
Yes.
an electrical engineer, and you dealt with certain contractors. And other than that, are there any interesting projects and programs you have driven?
So I've also got, you mentioned that I have a master's degree in telecommunications management.
Yeah.
So a good portion of my career has been in telecommunications, where I worked in planning, I've worked in engineering, and I've also worked in contracts.
Mhm.
So, for example, I manage projects for the installation of fiber optic networks across the US. I've worked to plan the communications between continents for underwater, subsea cable networks,
Mhm.
the construction of a network operating center or a data center. So everything from selecting the site, building the building, and connecting the network to the local access provider. So it could be someone like, it used to be Southwestern Bell or Pacific Telecom. And also, I worked for the company that provides 85% of all sports, news, and entertainment backhaul, video backhaul. So planning and executing the provision of the video for, let's say, the baseball season, all of the venues where baseball teams play. So how are the broadcasters going to connect their cameras and carry that video signal back to their network connect operating centers to be broadcast, and just planning all of that. Special news events like the Democratic or Republican national conventions, the Olympics, and several other special events like that.
Quite an interesting journey. And let's move ahead, Angela. Now, can you talk about the toughest project that you drove, and how did you accomplish it?
The toughest project?
Yes.
Okay. One of the toughest projects that I ever had was during my role as a subcontracts program manager in the aerospace industry. So after I left telecom, I got back into aerospace, and I was faced with a challenge. My director came to me and said, "We have a subcontractor that is delayed in certifying a particular product." Now, the aircraft that this product will go on already has a target date for launch. It's supposed to enter service on a particular date. And if this product is further delayed, that will affect entry into service of this aircraft, which is huge problems. So I was asked to travel to Montreal to help the supplier get back on track. So recovery of a project that was delayed. And so I spent 3 months at the supplier's site, working with both their hardware and their software teams, holding daily stand-ups, looking for ways to recover the schedule, what sorts of testing, both hardware and software, could we do in parallel? What sort of efficiencies could we gain from the supply chain? And eventually that project did recover, and the suppliers leadership team, as well as my own, were very happy with the outcome. We were able to deliver to the aircraft provider on time, and the aircraft did enter service on time.
Very nice. And let's move ahead, Angela. Now let's talk about the evolution of project management in the last 2 to 3 decades.
Certainly.
I'm sure Agile has transformed the industry, because I have also seen both the worlds, waterfall versus Scrum. And in fact, I got my Scrum certification way early when it started gaining popularity and all. And initially there was a lot of reluctance from the management in terms of adoption, since it involved their commitment, their time. But over a period of time, it has gained some wide adoption. So what is your take on this evolution of project management in the last 2 to 3 decades?
I do agree. Agile project management has been disruptive, and but in a good way. And we still use traditional waterfall methods for a lot of project management, particularly manufacturing and product development. And I think that there is an opportunity for those types of projects to be more agile, but still the Agile Manifesto states that you will deliver working software at the end of every sprint. So I think that a lot of people use agile without an understanding of what agile is. And so I want to be very cautious when I talk to my clients and they invoke agile. I'm like, let's be sure we understand we're on the same page, and we want to understand what you mean by that. So I love the fact that there are so many frameworks within agile. So you mentioned Scrum, and then there's Kanban, and so many others. And there are tools that we can take away from that and use and implement regardless of the specific methodology that we're using. And so I'm still very fond of the waterfall methodology with all of its gates. But as you likely know, the PMBOK has been completely rewritten, and that is indicative of the effect, I believe, that Agile has had on project management as a whole. So we no longer have those the hierarchy structure or the cycle structure in the PMBOK. I think that that's very important for us to realize, and project management is now focusing on the more service that the project manager provides.
I think I've recently gone through the recent PMBOK 7 outline.
Yes,
it has changed a lot in terms of I've delivered some sessions when it was PMBOK 4 and 5. And at that time, the way subject is organized versus what it is today, there is huge transformation out there. And as you rightly mentioned, I think things have to change. And we're seeing that evolution happening in the project management space as well. And now let's talk about the common mistakes that the project managers do while leading the projects, and how should they be cautious in terms of avoiding them.
Mhm. I think that one of the most common and frequent mistakes is not preparing a project charter and not getting that formal authority from a sponsor to launch the project. And that can be a huge mistake. Another thing is not identifying your risks early and often and looking for mitigation strategies or some sort of plan to address the risks you face. And when you're doing risk assessment, you want to engage your team because the PM alone does not know or understand the risks that are faced.
Yeah.
And you have to rely on your experts on the team to help you understand what the potential risks are. And they certainly are the ones that will be able to develop solutions for those risks. Another thing is probably holding on to information and sort of being that keeper of information when it's better to share it, and because it doesn't do anyone any good if you're the only one that has the information.
Yeah.
Hopefully the PM is also setting up some sort of archive for all of the documentation, whether it's meeting minutes or your risk register, your action item register, your charter, all of the documentation for the project so that it's accessible, it's fully accessible to the entire team. Because heaven forbid, the PM should be pulled onto another project, or that they should get sick or leave the company for some reason, because that archive needs to be in a place where someone else can come in and step into the shoes of the PM and take over.
Yeah.
So I would say that's because it has been my experience that I've had to take over a project without any artifacts.
Yeah.
And that's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. I think lack of documentation will not give us clarity at all. Like, we will be confused where to start. And one other point that resonated well with me is project charter. I'm fortunate that I work for a company like General Electric, because we are so used to these project charters, building and creating project charters for every formal and informal project, because that sets the right expectations, understanding the business case, and then articulating the problem statement. Why should we do this project? What happens if we don't do this project? What are the benefits of doing this project? What are the soft benefits? What are the hard benefits? And high level milestones? What is in scope? What is out of scope? Who are the key stakeholders? I think that's a beautiful way to actually proactively plan the project. And thank you for bringing that up. And now let's move ahead. And
what's the budget for the project?
That's important. And one other additional thing, when you spoke about this budget, the return on investment, right? Okay, if you are spending, but what is the benefit? Like, is the company going to get additional revenue, or are we going to improve the customer experience? Come on, I think that's another important aspect. Now let's talk about the best practices in project management. What do you recommend?
Well, that's a great segue from our last point.
Yeah.
So I think definitely, you've got to have a project charter. Selecting your team members. So sometimes you come into the project and you're told what resources you have, who your team members may be. You definitely would want to create those registers, an action item register, a risk register, but also you want to build out your project plan. That may be a document you create. It may be something that you create in a tool like Microsoft project. But building that plan and a schedule, understanding what the tasks are that you have to perform to get to the desired outcome, and understanding who's going to be responsible for completing these tasks and when, because you need to be able to understand what your critical path is and what happens if certain tasks are delayed. Do you have any slack in your schedule or not? And you need, because you're going to be reporting to your managers, your management team, what's happening along the way. And are you going to use an earned value method to report on this or not? Some companies utilize earned value and others don't. But hopefully you'll have an understanding of what the expectation is for reporting on your success. And I think that probably needs to be captured in your charter. How will I know if I'm successful or not? So you want to capture all of that early and understand, what does success look like?
Yeah.
Because I've been in companies where every week you have a status meeting and nothing really gets accomplished, and the due dates for the tasks just get pushed to the right. Well, we didn't complete the tasks, but I can't tell you why, and I don't really know when I will get this done. And for me, that's not acceptable.
Yeah. I think you highlighted some very good points over here. Now let's switch gears and talk about your passion towards semiconductor industry. So why are you so passionate about semiconductors?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So when I graduated from college, I had a job offer from NASA, but I graduated at the end of April, and I wouldn't be able to start my job at NASA until the first week of September. So I had a summer that was free. So I took an internship with a company that was local. And I had this great opportunity. I worked in a company that was basically a foundry for germanium and silicon, gallium arsenide, and indium arsenide. And so germanium and silicon are both infrared glass. they're optical, infrared optical glass, but they are also semiconductors. And so I worked in the single crystal lab where they produced very, very high grade, 7 nines pure grade single crystal germanium and silicon for the semiconductor industry. And I worked directly with Dr. Jeroy Richter from Pittsburgh State University in Kansas. And I helped I perform some resistivity investigations for a paper that he was writing and on germanium and silicon and their resistivity characteristics. So that was a very great job for me for the summer. And I learned a lot about material science, the introduction of dopants and how that affected the properties of the metals. And then later, after I left NASA, I came back to work for that company as a sales engineer. And worked a lot more on the optical properties, selling optical blanks for products like tank windows, helicopter glass, as well as the semiconductors. So from that early instruction and that opportunity, I was just really, really interested in semiconductors. And since I live in Texas, we have a huge population of semiconductor companies here in Texas, including Texas Instruments, 26. Global Wafer is building a new plant here. And so the northern part of Texas, and then in Austin, we have a very large influence of semiconductor companies, both the foundries, the chip manufacturers, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite interesting. And now let's also talk about the AI for manufacturing. Are you driving any projects in that space?
Oh, AI?
Yeah.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'll be leading a panel discussion in August for AI for manufacturing and SCADA. So I'll be representing the Women in Manufacturing Texas chapter. Wow. And so there's a 3-day conference in Dallas. And so Women in Manufacturing were invited to participate in this conference. And I'll be organizing a panel discussion around digital transformation in manufacturing, and we'll be speaking on that. So definitely looking at AI and how it is influencing manufacturing today.
Wow. And good luck on that conference and the panel discussion. And Angela, one other question, I'm more curious about some of the not-for-profit communities that you are part of, and some of these chapters that you mentioned, Women in Manufacturing and all, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think it is necessary for someone after attaining certain experience to participate in these kind of events, and how does it help someone grow professionally?
I definitely do. So my my career stems 35 years, and I definitely believe that at this point in my career, it's incumbent upon me to give back and to lift up and mentor women who are starting their careers, who are considering coming into STEM, engineering, project management, any area that I might be able to help. And so 2 years ago, I joined Women in Manufacturing and specifically the Texas chapter. And I now serve as the treasurer and director of membership. We have seen since the chapter was organized 3 years ago, we had fewer than 100 members, and now we have over 1,200 members affiliated with our chapter, and I just love that, and I love giving back to the chapter in whatever way I can. In fact, later today, I'm traveling to San Antonio to help onboard new leadership team members. I help organize a monthly networking event here in Houston to introduce more members from all different industries. And this organization is open to male allies as well as women. It's very inclusive. And I'm also, I'm a member of the Houston chapter of PMI, and I look for opportunities to contribute wherever I can. Yesterday, I was a panelist on a virtual leadership lab for leading ladies of aerospace. And yes, I just really think it's important to offer whatever assistance I can. In fact, my company offers a quarterly scholarship to bring in new members into WIM. And it's just important to me to support those who have an interest.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And this has been great conversation so far. Let's add some spice to the episode, Angela. Okay, so let me kick off the quick rapid fire round. And here comes my first question. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Anywhere with anything on it. I would like a billboard in Times Square that says, you need project managers.
Good one. Yeah, I think that's the right spot. Everybody aims to get that space there. Good one. And let's move ahead. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
Um, Probably the Victorian era. I think, the whole industrial revolution, I think that would have been a great time. And that's when some women were first starting to be recognized for their contributions. Yeah.
Good. And can you describe yourself in just one word?
Myself and inquisitive.
Inquisitive. Awesome. And moving to the next question. What is the weirdest thing that you have ever eaten?
Weirdest thing I've ever eaten. Frog legs.
Oh, where was that?
Back home in Arkansas. My uncles used to gig the frogs in the creek, and my grandmother would cook them, fry them.
How does it taste?
Kind of a little fishy. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And here comes my next one. Which superpower would you choose? Invisibility or mind reading?
Mind reading.
And any specific reason?
Again, that inquisitiveness.
Got it. And here comes my last one for the rapid fire. What is one electronic gadget that you'd like to see or invent yourself, Angela?
An electronic gadget I'd like to see or invent myself. That is tough.
You can imagine anything.
Imagine. We have so much. I can't imagine anything more. Oh gosh. Maybe a gadget that would turn off the nuisance emails.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest problem that we are facing these days. Great, amazing rapid fire. Let's flip back to the main street. And here comes my last but one question. What is your one piece of advice to those aspiring to become project managers?
Reach out to someone who is a project manager and ask to shadow them, or just ask them how they got into the project management career. And because I think you would find that most people are very happy to talk to you about it and help you on your way.
Yeah, that's a powerful advice. I think shadowing someone will definitely boost that particular experience, and it will add a lot of value because you're getting something directly from the horse's mouth.
Yes, definitely.
Wonderful. And how is your experience being hosted on the Guiding Voice?
This has been fantastic. And I really enjoy the questions and the dialogue. So thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
Yeah, pleasure to host you, Angela. And thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you. Appreciate your time and all the insights that you have provided.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Right. So, friends, that was our episode with Angela Thurman. And you can feel free to connect with her on LinkedIn. You'll find her LinkedIn profile in the episode description or the show notes. And before we move into the trigger section, here is a request to you. Please subscribe to us in case if you haven't done already. Also, if you have found this episode on Apple or Spotify, please follow. And if possible, leave us a rating or review. It will help us reach wider audience. Also, if you have loved this episode and found the conversation useful, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the Guiding Voice. All right, now let's hop into the trivia segment. Today we had a wonderful conversation with Angela on project management as a service, some of the best practices within project management and mistakes that project managers are doing and how to become a project manager, I thought I would share a few facts about project managers. There are approximately 16.5 million project managers in the world, and 44% of them do not use any project management software. And in the IT sector, 17% of the IT projects fail so significantly that they could threaten the company's entire existence. And the most interesting thing is the shortage of project managers could result in a $207.9 billion GDP loss by 2027. So what are you waiting for? Get yourself a project manager certification and embark on project management opportunity and be the change agent of the organization by driving some interesting projects. So buckle up and enroll yourself as a project manager. And guys, if you have come across any critical project and maybe you have played a crucial role in terms of turning around the project, do share your great project management experience in the form of YouTube comments, or if you have found this episode on social media, and you can leave the comment on social media as well, or else you can drop me a note on my email address. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and please share your topic recommendations, and also if you have any guest speaker suggestions, just reach out to me through social media or email me at theguidingvoiceforyou@gmail.com. I'm your host Navin Samala, just a fellow professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make the world a better place to live through the conversations that matter and conversations that add value to your life and your career. Until next time, bye-bye. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest.